way back whenever it was, whatever the year was that Detroit Become Human came out, I watched a certain amount of content from this game, like Let's Plays, like things like that, and it is it's incredibly goofy. It has a lot of hashtag politics going on. It is a quantic dream game, meaning it's written and directed, quote unquote, by the one and only David Cage, writer and director of Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, which are also two goofy as fuck and in many ways wildly offensive narrative-focused games. And I use the phrase written and directed because David Cage is famously like an auteur about his approach to video games, and there's a lot to unpack about that. But anyway, I've never actually played Detroit Become Human myself, and I've been saving this to play on the channel for a long time because it's like, it is trying to deal with various political themes in classic David Cage fashion, but perhaps arguably taken to a new extreme because it's more like overtly political than the others. It deals with these political themes exceptionally badly. And because I'm not feeling so great, because I'm having a little depression, I thought it would be fun to play a David Cage game and talk shit about a David Cage game. And technically this falls under the umbrella of Game Assist because I'm making political commentary about a David Cage game. So that's my explanation for why we're here today with Detroit Become Human, and also why you cannot see my face. Welcome, Gazebo Kids, and welcome, Lost in Fairy. I love making fun of this game. Well, that's what we're in for today. Anyone coming into this stream who is expecting this to be a very highly serious stream where we love Detroit Become Human and we take Detroit Become Human very seriously, that is not going to be the vibe today. That is like, this is a goofy as fuck game, especially in terms of its politics. So this is going to be a ragging on Detroit Become Human stream because I need to make fun of David Cage to feel something. Love that having a bad time correlates to Detroit What If Robots Were People Simulator. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I don't really know how to explain this, but Heavy Rain is actually one of my comfort games. I have it on physical edition because Heavy Rain is like so exceptionally bad that it makes me laugh, and sometimes just picking up Heavy Rain cheers me up, and that is genuinely my relationship with Quantic Dream. Like, these games are so laughable to me that they've become like a comfort thing. I'm so for real serious. Like, I've played Heavy Rain a bunch of times. Started it, played it the whole way through, got my friends to play it with me to have a laugh. This is going to be my first time playing Detroit Become Human myself, as I've said. I have this feeling that it's gonna potentially be on the same level. It depends on how much it matches up to being like as goofy as Heavy Rain is. Anything can be Game Assist if we try hard enough. It's so true. Just gotta get a little political commentary in there, which is like how my brain is wired to work anyway, and we're good. Is Heavy Rain the Room of video games? Ooh, that's a really good question. I think, okay, not to, I'm gonna do that thing where like someone asks me a question and I take it very seriously, but that's also like kind of the bit. So I haven't seen The Room, but I've seen clips from The Room, so I know the vibe of The Room. And Heavy Rain, for me, the question that comes up for me is, I guess the first question that comes up for me is the question of campiness, which there are many definitions of camp, but there's a lot of disagreement on what it means to be camp or what qualifies as camp. Famously, Susan Sontag, in her essay Notes on Camp, in her criteria for what is camp. She considers that, in her opinion, something has to attempt seriousness and fail at seriousness, thereby creating this camp effect. I think a lot of campy things are that. I think David Cage is campy in that way because his games are so, like, he's so serious about these games, and they fail so bad at being serious. I think a lot of camp stuff falls into that category. I would say there's a lot of stuff that's like camp or campy that is intentionally campy though. That's my opinion. That's where I would disagree with Sontag. But my understanding of The Room, and Gazebo Kids is agreeing with me that is The Room through and through. It seems to have that kind of quality of like failed seriousness. So I would say, I don't know who directed the Room and if they made other stuff, but I would say that perhaps David Cage is the guy in the video games industry that matches that. I think Swery is a solid contender, but like but there would be some contention about that. I mean, Deadly Premonition I think falls perhaps into that camp, but it's like, that's more contentious because I think that maybe Deadly Premonition has like a sense of humor to it, and it might be somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but it's also deadly serious and failing at it really badly at a lot of points, which is also why, not to be like outing myself, but Deadly Premonition is also kind of a comfort game for me sometimes because it just really makes me laugh how stupid it is. I think David Cage is like 110%. Like, this guy, he makes games, he's like, I'm making art. This is the art of video games, and he's so deadly serious about this. None of these games are like trying to be funny. Like, they're so thoroughly trying to be serious and doing such a bad job of it. So David Cage, 110%. Tommy Wiseau directed The Room, and he is a character. I can imagine. I gotta watch it sometime. To be fair, people do like Swery's games, unironically. They do, don't they? I find that crazy. And people unironically like David Cage's games as well. But, and I think that this game, I've known many people to genuinely love this game, and I've been in many awkward conversations with people where they've been like, oh, I love Detroit Become Human, like, it's so blah blah, and I have to be like, really? Not to judge you guys or like say that I have superior taste or anything, but like, it's crazy that people have like serious love for this game, like in not a tongue-in-cheek kind of way. And those are the kind of, if you tell me that you genuinely like Detroit Become Human, then that's like genuinely like it. I have to be so clear about that, because someone could tell me they like Detroit Become Human, and I could be like, oh, I love playing that game, it's so goofy, like blah blah blah. But if they like seriously, like sincerely think it's like a sincerely good game, then I also do not want to talk to that person about political issues. Because if you sincerely like this game, what are your politics? They have to be bad. They have to be bad. And we'll get into it while we're playing the game. But I don't trust a bitch who sincerely likes this game, because the politics are awful. They're awful, they're awful, they're awful. I have only seen white people say that they love it. And that tracks. That speaks for itself. You're totally right, Gazebo Kids. Okay, let's open the game, shall we? Oh, okay. We're gonna have a fun time today. It's getting a goofy mindset, everybody. We're gonna have some serious analysis as always, but we're getting goofy with it. I don't know if anyone has ever seen, that's so funny. You know the thing, which reminds me, I think the thing about David Cage and his, like, auteur, like, construction of himself, and there's so much, like, arrogance to that, and so much to...
I'm glad to see you again. I hope you had a pleasant day. Would you like to continue your story?
I'd like to start a new story in just a moment. What was I gonna say? Right, David Cage. I get the feeling, and I can't confirm this, if anyone can confirm this, would love that, would find it hilarious. He has the vibe that he really, really wanted to direct movies. Like, this is not, this is my opinion. When I play his games, I think this is a man who doesn't want to make games, this is a man who wants to make movies. And it's the way that the games are designed, it's the way that the games are like visually presented, it's the way he describes himself as a writer and director, he does movie credits. Like, this is a guy who wants to make movies, but for some reason he's making games, and the only reason I can possibly think of is that France, comparative to other European countries, and sorry to give France a W because we hate France here, but France, comparative to other European countries, actually has a lot of government funding available for the arts, and particularly for animation and video game development. So it's a lot easier to access, like, grants for.
We need to proceed to a test of your controller.
I appreciate that, darling. Let me have a moment, please. The
test is now complete. Thank you for your cooperation.
Okay. I didn't do any test. What are you talking about? Yes. So that's my understanding. He's not Kojima, who loves movies and did want to make movies, but actually can and wants to make games, even if they have problems. Totally. And I think that Kojima's games, I feel that you can tell, right? Because it's like that, you know, Kojima games, they have these, like, famously they have very cinematic sequences. Kojima, there's also something to be said about how he constructs himself as an auteur, so he often does put in his games, like, written and directed by Hideo Kojima, or something like that. But, like, they're actual fun video games. Yeah, I mean, Kojima, he, like, actually makes fun, interesting, like, games. David Cage games are, and, like, you know me, I'm not, some people are, I am not anti-choose your adventure game. Famously, I actually love choose your adventure games as a, you know, an avid fan of Telltale's The Walking Dead and Life is Strange. That is not the problem to me. I just think that I don't know how to, like, put this into words exactly. It's there. I think that there's such
We need to proceed to a test of your controller.
difference between a choose your own adventure game that is, like, made lovingly and
the test is now
made
complete.
in a, like,
thank you for your cooperation,
interesting or engaging way, and a choose your own adventure game that's just trying to be a movie. You know? That's my take on it. No problem. Enjoy your dinner, gazebo kids. Anyway, I've already just spent a bunch of time talking, haven't I? Just goofing around. Yeah, we'll get to the fucking Martin Luther King quote. I actually, wish there was a way to, like, reset the game, like, opening screen, because if I remember correctly, there's something pretty interesting that happens when you, like, set up this game for the first time.
Accessing the extras section.
But I don't know how you can, like, reset it.
This is the options section. You can customize your experience here.
I might actually look up if you can reset it, because yeah, you have to do, like, a quiz or something, and
your parameters have been saved.
Yeah, but what if I want to reset my parameters? Let's dive in with the survey and start from there. Oh, hold on. This is how I responded to the survey the first time I did it. Can I take the survey again? Okay. this... Okay, so I guess the first time I got this game a million years ago, I must have answered this and then like played a bit and then stopped. So it'll be pretty interesting to look back at my answers actually and see if I would have changed them. So let's do that in the meantime. Would you consider having a relationship with an android that looks like a human? I said yes. I would still say yes. And I can talk about why. The world's answers, 59% of people said yes, 21% said no, and 20% said don't know, which I think is quite interesting. That's almost 2/3 of people that said yes, so that's a pretty big majority. I think it's valid to feel like you don't know if you would as well. Because, I mean, it's hard to know the implications of what a world would look like where you had androids that looked like humans. But okay, how do I explain my answer? It's like, I guess that if we're saying that an android that looks like a human is like a living being with autonomy, like, you know, even if they're not organic life, they're like a form of life, a synthetic form of life. They can accumulate knowledge, they can feel and respond to things, then that's a, you know, a form of intelligent life, right? And I guess that this is like the fundamental philosophical question of the game, which I think is somewhat convoluted sometimes, because I know that this is like a very popular question in a lot of science fiction. I think at this point in time, I think it's been done quite a bit, and I think it's like somewhat convoluted, but I'll potentially unpack that later. Then, yeah, why wouldn't I consider having a relationship with them? I guess that like my don't know might be from I don't know the parameters of like what these androids' lives look like. I don't know the parameters of like what their lives are like, what their programming is like. Can they feel like romantic feelings? Can they consent to romantic relationships? Do they have sexual desire? Can they consent to sex? I think that perhaps I would lean towards a don't know, because those things are very important to me to consider before having a relationship with anyone. I think, like, you know, it has to be like a consenting like relationship that makes two like consenting people like happy, right? But in terms of the I suppose the philosophical question of like whether or not an android is a person when it's like sentient life and it looks like a person, then obviously I would consider it a person. Like, why wouldn't I? That's the question that I sometimes find convoluted, I guess. But the question is, would you consider it? Yeah, I would absolutely consider it. I don't know if I would, because there's still a lot of important information that I would need, but I would totally consider it on the basis of they, like, you know, I in response to the thing of like, do I basically think that they're a person, and would I have a relationship with a person? Yes. But would I need more information before I would like make the decision of entering a relationship? Because I would want to know if that person like would be happy and consenting in a relationship with me. Then yeah, I hope that makes sense. 2, do you think that technology could become a threat to mankind? Actually, this is quite a funny question to have here right now, isn't it? With recent developments and discussions around AI. This is a fascinating question right now. Because the question is, like, how do you define a threat to mankind? Like, what is a threat to mankind? What does that mean? And there's, you know, when we talk about, like, AI and why AI is, like, a threat, it's completely contingent on political conditions and the reasons for designing and using AI, right? Particularly generative AI, which is that, like, I'm a strong believer that, like, no technology, well, maybe not no technology, because obviously, like, you know, like weapons and like a, you know, white phosphorus and things like that, you know. But generally speaking, I don't think that technology is inherently evil. Technology is not inherently evil. It has everything to do with who is making technology and what they're using technology for. I mean, I guess that in a big way you could even apply that to weapons, but with a lot of those weapons it's like, okay, why did you make that in the first place? You know what I mean? You could have just not made that. Which is why I find things like Oppenheimer and the way that they try to approach the moral quandary in Oppenheimer really stupid, because I'm like, okay, supposedly his moral quandary is that, like, he's doing the research he's doing in the name of scientific development, but he knows that that scientific development is going to, like, cause in the deaths of millions of people, and what I say to that is nothing is worth the deaths of millions of people, so just grow the fuck up and don't create the technology. But anyway, and when we talk about AI being a threat, like, AI is a threat because it's developed and used by people who want to generate profit in a capitalist context. So AI threatens people's jobs, it threatens people's livelihoods, but that is not because AI itself is an inherently evil thing. It's because of the people who are making the technology, and this is key. Like, people design technology for purposes, and people are designing generative AI for the purposes of, like, profiting easily, and that is having the effect of, like, disenfranchising other people of their jobs, of their incomes, etc., etc. This question I think is too broad, and I think that's why I would still answer I don't know. Because, I mean, I guess, like, in a sense it's like, yes, of course it could. I mean, in many ways it already has, right? Like, again, if we're talking about AI, if we're talking about weapons, but it feels very important to me to clarify that I think that this is a deeply political question. And the evil is not in the technology itself or the nature of the technology, but it's in the human beings who design technology for evil purposes. So I think that in a lot of ways, I guess that what I'm saying is that I'm rejecting the premise of this question, because humans design technology to threaten other humans. So that the real threat to mankind is humans in the context of systems like capitalism, etc. I hope that made sense. That was a waffle. I'm struggling to articulate myself today, but that's fine. Yes, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. Hello and welcome, Neve. Hope you're doing well today. Okay, number 3. If you had to live on a deserted island and could only bring one object, what would it be? A book, a cell phone, pen and paper, a console, an instrument. Okay, interesting. Apparently I answered a cell phone at the time. I don't really know why I did that. Hold on, let me go back to the previous question, because what were the stats? Oh, yes, of course it is. Can you, by the way, because we're on stream, this is a good opportunity to ask, how do I pronounce your name? So that I can make sure that I'm calling you by the correct name in the future and that I'm pronouncing it correctly. And apologies for the mix-up with that just now and previously as well. I will keep on top of that in the future. Okay, I want to go back to this previous section because 68% of people said that technology could become a threat to mankind, 19% said no, and 13% said don't know. So actually loads of people think yes. I'd be very interested in knowing people's rationale, lol. Aeon? Is that how you pronounce it? Is that right, Aeon? Please correct me if that is not right. Interesting. I'd love to see people's rationale for these answers. Okay, amazing. I will keep that in mind. Thank you, Aeon. Hope you're doing good today. If you had to live on a... Yeah, that's the question. Okay, a book, a cell phone, pen and paper, a console, an instrument. Yeah, a cell phone's an interesting one. I'm not really particularly interested in this question, to be honest with you. But it is interesting that, like, almost everyone selected a cell phone. The most popular answer is actually an instrument. But I guess because, like, a lot of people are saying that technology is a threat, but then also they are saying that if they could only bring one object to a deserted island, it would be a piece of technology. Although, I guess, and this is, sorry if this is being overly me about things, but technology is, like... The word technology actually doesn't only apply to digital technology. I mean, the word technology is like now become synonymous with digital technology, but technology is basically anything that you design for a purpose. So in the Iron Age, they had technology, right? They used resources available to them to develop technology, to hunt, to develop... navigation, to, start fires, to do and all of that is technology, technically, by definition. But the word has now become synonymous with digital technology, which is very interesting. But, pen and paper is technically technology. It's technology of writing. An instrument is a technology of music, a book is a technology of learning. If I had to answer this question, I would bring a pen and paper, says Aeon. Interesting. I think that's a good answer. Yeah, I guess it's kind of asking you about, like, what's important to you in a lot of ways. It's like, would you... Perhaps with a cell phone, it's like you would try to communicate with people, but what if you didn't have cell signal? Perhaps there are other things you could do, blah, blah, blah. A book... or an instrument could be like entertainment and joy. A pen and paper is like creation and perhaps another mode of communication. A console? I don't know if they mean a video game console, but that's ridiculous. Like what? I guess I don't know if we're in a deserted island like survivalist scenario. Maybe I was assuming that, but yeah, I guess I'm not super interested in that question, but interesting. Do you consider yourself dependent on technology? Yes. I mean, we live in a society where we have become dependent on technology. I think about this a lot. Like, I'm dependent on Google Maps to get to where I'm going. I'm dependent on my contactless to pay for the bus. I'm dependent on, but this is not like an individual problem. This is a systematic, again, this is a political issue. This is a systematic issue. The reason why we live in a society where we are dependent on digital technology is because corporations with a monopoly over digital technology, Apple, Microsoft, who are now on the BDS list, by the way, etc., Google, they have manufactured our dependence on technology so that they can profit, right? So, and Aeon, you're saying I've felt very strongly about divorcing myself from digital tech, and a lot of people that I've been talking to, I don't know how big of a trend this is, but me, myself, and people I've been talking to have been thinking about this as well, because they manufacture our dependence on digital technology so that we give them money. And that's why it feels so hard to boycott Microsoft, for example, right? But the truth of the matter is, if I wanted to put the time and effort and learning into it, I could stop using Google Maps, and I could start researching where do I get like a city map for the city that I live in, and how do I start like memorizing the routes where I'm going, and blah blah blah. Now, what I'm saying is making it sound easier than it is, because these corporations in tandem with our governments have like designed a society where like it's not as easy for me to go to the shop and get a paper A to Z map of the city that I live in. Whereas like I remember being a kid, I remember like I'm talking about 20 years ago, I would get in the car with my mum, and every time that she was going into the city that we lived relatively near to at that time, to go to work, she would get out her big A to Z map, or she would go and write down or print directions to have in the car with her before she went there, right? And our dependence on Google Maps means that we've lost those skills, but it's also because they manufacture our dependence on digital tech for profit, and we lose those skills. But what was I gonna say? I lost the point that I was saying. Sorry, because I'm all over the place today, and updating chat distracted me. But it's. And it's important for me to say as well that I'm not saying that technology is bad. I've just said that I want to be really clear that I don't think technology is inherently bad. So, digital technology, for example, with like accessibility technology and stuff like that can be really useful for people. But like on a systematic level, we've become dependent on things like Google Maps and stuff like that. Oh, by the way, I just saw that you gave us a follow, Aeon, so welcome. But yes, this is what I was going to say. It's also about time. Time has become more and more of a commodity, and this hyper dependence on digital technology, part of the reason that the way in which they also benefit from it is that the less time we spend on going and researching the directions for where we want to go, and writing out the directions and taking the directions, because for example, obviously I totally understand what you're saying, Faye, about like you need directions and someone to tell you where to go, but like you could get that in an analog or manual or non-digital way, like I'm describing. Like you could like perhaps have someone's assistance to read an A to Z map and draw out those directions, and write out those directions for you. But that takes more time. That takes another person to help you. And this is, I'm understanding as well, very crucially, that you're saying that's an access need, and the digital technology makes that access need much smoother, and it does make you like more independent in that sense. But it's also important for us to see that part of the reason for that is because like you don't have the time, or perhaps other people who could help a disabled person to access in that way, like help you map out directions and things like that, because they want us to be spending more time on working and being hyper productive, right? So a lot of the kind of aspect of it is that digital technology, it does make things a lot easier, and obviously in some regard it makes some things accessible for people, and that's good. But in terms of the like wide trends, for a lot of us it's like a comfort thing, it's a convenience thing, and we'll pay the money to these big corporations for things that, like, if we stop and think about it, we don't actually need. And we do that because it saves time that we can then invest in other things. And, you know, making time to invest in other things isn't necessarily bad. Again, I'm trying to approach this with some degree of nuance, but I'm talking about like a broad sociological trend and like why capitalism is invested in these things. Corporations are invested in these things because they want us working more. It's, you know, it's equally, it's like, why did technologies for making housekeeping easier meant that women were saving time on like doing laundry and doing cooking and things like that. Where are many women spending that time these days? They're spending it on, you know, working in a job. And again, it's not necessarily that that's a bad thing, because on one hand that's like increased women's independence in society, but also that's a benefit for corporations, because these women are spending money on technologies that make housekeeping much more time efficient and much easier, so that they have more time to work and produce profit for these companies. Anyway, I feel like I'm not articulating myself the best today, but I'm trying to kind of paint a picture of how we live in a society that has systematically manufactured our dependence on digital technology and various kinds of technology at many levels, so that they can make more money off of us for buying this technology, and also so that we are spending less time doing things that, like, if you do it in a manual or analog way, lol, I just combined those two words, you can be spending more time in work. So am I dependent on technology? Yes, absolutely. But this is not an individual me problem, it's a systematic problem. I individually would like to move towards being less dependent on technology. I've been thinking, for example, I want to look at ending my Spotify subscription and going back to you know, buying CDs or physical media of albums that I like and stuff, and maybe using like a free platform like YouTube or something to listen to new music. I would like to move towards that. And I would also, you know, the Microsoft boycott has been announced, and I think that, you know, my piece of shit laptop, which is almost broken anyway, and my PC, which I stream from, which I work from, they both use Microsoft operating systems, and I would like to move away from that to, you know, be in line with the boycott, and my aim is to try to achieve that by October, because Windows 10 support ends in October anyway. So because I'm very aware, right, that I have become dependent of, like, I've been using Microsoft operating system like my whole life. When someone puts me in front of a Mac, I don't know what I'm doing. But, you know, these things, they feel daunting, but it just takes time and effort to unlearn old things and learn new things. And obviously I'm going to do it because it's the right thing to do. So I'm like, okay, well, they're going to end support by October anyway, so I'm going to take that time to, you know, potentially get Linux instead, and I probably need to trade in my laptop anyway, and I'll get not a Microsoft PC that time. And these things, they take time and effort, but they are important for us to do. And again, to reiterate, technology is not evil, but there's a reason that we live in a society that's created our dependence on technology. Hi Lotus, absolutely diabolical stream title. Thank you. What a compliment. What did I even title this stream? Detroit clumsy race metaphors. Am I wrong though? Sorry, I've just been taking forever going through the survey questions on this game. I totally forgot, because I haven't played this all the way through myself before, but like way back in the day, I watched some like meme and let's play content of it. But I think maybe like 5 years ago or something, I bought this game, which I re-downloaded for today and filled out this survey, and I'd totally forgotten it was a thing. So now we're going through the survey now that it opens the game with, which is like about technology. You're not wrong, but it's still diabolical. I love to be diabolical. I'm taking that as a compliment. Diabolical to me is a compliment. My desktop is one thing I'd love to eventually move away. Hope can find something more refurbished. Nice one, Aeon. Curious, if you're not getting a Microsoft PC and you're not getting Apple, then what is there? Honestly, I gotta do some research. I don't know anything about technology. That's real and true. So I'm marginally aware that Linux is a thing. I literally know nothing about Linux. Linux was mentioned in our Game Assist Discord server the other day. I know nothing about Linux. So if anyone has any information about Linux and what it is, why it's better than Apple and Microsoft, how people can move towards Linux, then would be happy to share that knowledge. Yeah, Lotus and Aeon are saying Linux. I'd like to transition to Linux. So yeah, there we go. I really don't know anything about Linux, so it's my goal over the next few months, and I have a deadline anyway of October when the Windows I'd like to do it before then, but it just gives me like a deadline, which is helpful. I love deadlines. To try to transition to Linux by then. Okay, question 5. What technology do you most anticipate? The world answers androids, 35%, 15% flying cars, 19% space tourism, 31% brain-connected devices. Apparently I answered brain-connected devices. I don't know what I meant by that. I don't know what the game means by that. But sure. I'm also not particularly interested in this question. I think it's kind of boring. I think that I'd potentially change... Okay, I mean, we've definitely moved more towards, like, there's, like, facial recognition and, like, stuff like that. So potentially, if brain-connected devices means that your, like, neural signals are somehow being read by, like, other pieces of, by pieces of digital technology, which, sure, maybe kind of like in Cyberpunk 2077 or something like that, then maybe that could possibly happen. Androids, I mean, people have already made prototypes for androids. Space tourism is definitely on the horizon, or as I would prefer to call it because it's more accurate, space colonialism. I think, once again, what terrifies me about this is, again, the technology in itself is not evil, it's the political context. So obviously when we're talking about space tourism, it would be cool to hang out in space, but, you know, we live in a society, and in that society, it's going to be space capitalism, it's going to be space colonization, you know what I mean? That's what people are investing money in, that's the way things are going. Similarly with androids and the prototypes that we've seen, very concerned about, like, how that technology is being used to encourage a society. And that's one of the main themes of this game, to encourage a society where we do not have to have connection with human beings who are messy and complicated and who we do not always get along with, who we have conflict with, who can say no to us. That's really important. Who can say no to us? Another human being could say no to you, and an android cannot. And that's one of the, or like in theory cannot, or cannot in the same way. Obviously this is very complex, but that's one of the themes of this game. It's actually a theme of a movie that I saw recently, that released in cinemas recently, that I won't say what it is because it's a spoiler. And when it comes to brain-connected devices, my concern about that, again, in the political context that we're living in, is surveillance. Face recognition technology is used for surveillance. Like, you know, tech companies are already like collecting a huge amount of our personal data for surveillance purposes, right? To create a hyper-authoritarian states, which are even more authoritarian than the states we already live in. That's the way in which things like facial recognition technology are already being used, and that is 100%, I have no doubt, in a, you know, in a future version of late stage capitalism, because we're already in late stage capitalism. What would that be? Late stage capitalism? I don't know. I have no doubt that brain connected devices would feed into the surveillance state that we live in, 100%. I'm not all that educated about it, but Linux, I'm guessing you're talking about Lotus, is open source, which means that it's free and anyone can modify it or make their own versions of it and whatnot. No one owns it and you don't pay for it. There are a bunch of things you can add to Linux, like this thing called Wine that basically makes a fake Windows environment so Windows apps just work. Thank you so much for explaining that, Lotus. That sounds like a great alternative to both Apple and Microsoft. So definitely worth looking into. I'm honestly like really bad with PC stuff, so I'm going to be seeking out help to make those moves. But I'm going to be moving towards Linux in 2025. That's the goal for me. Okay, question 6. Do you believe in God? I answered yes. I would still answer yes. I still believe in God. 48% of people answered yes, and 35 answered no, and 17% answered don't know. I think that's really interesting because I would have thought that there are more atheists playing games like these. I don't really have any like data on religious demographics playing games. Is actually quite an interesting question to think about. Playing games like Detroit Become Human, games in general. But like, because, you know, most people who have the material privilege to be playing video games, single player video games in particular, live in the global north, which is an increasingly secular society, I would have assumed that there were more atheists here. So that's quite interesting. Would you let an android take care of your children? I answered yes. This is going to be a theme in this game, so this is an interesting one. 48% of people answered yes, and 25 no, and 27 don't know. I think potentially, as with the would I have a relationship or consider a relationship with an android question, maybe I would lean slightly more towards don't know, because I feel that I don't have all of the information at hand of like what exactly the android technology is. But again, working on the assumption of this is basically a person. I don't know why I wouldn't. If it was a nice, trustworthy android that I was friends with, or met the job criteria, I don't know why I wouldn't, but perhaps I would lean more towards don't know, just because I don't feel that I have all the information at hand. Like, these kind of speculative questions are a bit difficult in that regard, but I'm presuming that they're trying to interrogate my kind of philosophical beliefs about whether or not androids are people, and in the way it's presented to me in this game, as I've said already, yeah, they're people. So that's not the issue. This is not an informed decision. So maybe I'd lean towards don't know. No problem, Gazebo Kids. Thank you for lurking. Linux has that little penguin mascot. Oh, cute. It's the whole package, huh? I'm decent with computers, but it's quite intimidating, lol. But with Windows 10 ending support, it's something I probably have to do regardless. Yeah, totally, Lotus. I was just saying the same thing. Because all of my stuff is Windows 10 and support is ending in October, so I'm setting October as my like deadline of moving to Linux by then. Speaking anecdotally, I feel there are a lot of agnostic and non-denominational Christians in the US, Also, if I remember correctly, a significant portion of DBH's sales are from China, and I don't know nothing about all of that, lol. That's really interesting. Thanks, Lotus. I definitely see that, and it's interesting that you say that, because again, I have no data at hand, but anecdotally, I would also say that I feel that I've seen an increase in agnostic sentiment recently. I don't live in the United States, I live in the UK, but I feel that I've seen an increase in agnostic sentiment, people who would describe themselves as believing in something of like a spiritual or religious nature, but that thing is undefined or like non-denominational in some way. I have a lot of feelings about that, because depending on the person and how they describe it, it can be genuine spiritual curiosity that like I think is great, good for them, or it can be a very ignorant understanding of religious institutions and a real hesitance to align themselves with religion that sometimes comes across to me as very ignorant. I see a lot of people increasingly being like, I don't like defining myself as religious, I like saying that I have faith, which is actually something I probably would have said a few years ago, but I now find kind of cringe, because I do think that the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, I feel that that's like reinforcing the idea that like religion is inherently like bad or authoritarian or whatever, and that's idea that I'm increasingly resistant to, because I increasingly see how like racist it is and how its deployment is like super racist. But it's a very complicated issue, of course, right? I'm interested that they asked that question in this game, though. I don't remember if this game has any like religious themes, so I'd be curious about that. I guess like maybe in relation to Android, it's asking a question about whether or not you think that a person is a person because they have a spirit, like some kind of ethereal essence, and is that something that an Android has? And my answer is I don't know, but I think that for me that is an answer rooted in my religious belief, which is to say some things I don't know. Only God knows those things. But what I do know is that if it looks and speaks and acts like a human being, then I'm going to treat it like a human being. And that's all I need to know, fundamentally. How much time per day would you say that you spend on an electronic device? More than 4 hours? Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I work from home, and my work hours are 9:30 in the morning to 5:30 in the evening, and that's mostly online from my desktop. And then beyond that, like game assist, working on video essays, things like that. Yeah. And it looks like 62% of people said more than 4 hours a day. I think part of why that mindset is common in the US is just growing up in a Christian society but not wanting to be part of the church. Yes. But it's interesting as well because there's significant like racial demographic correlations with religion in the United States and in other countries. Like most communities that, and to be fair, I don't have statistics on this off the top of my head, so I would be happy to be proven wrong quantitatively, but like I feel that I've seen this in the past, that you know, within Global South and Global South countries, like statistically people are more likely to identify themselves as having religion. In countries like the United States and in the UK, here in the UK, definitely here in the UK, I can definitely say that here in the UK, and I do like have seen like the statistics before. Ethnic minority communities, like racial minority communities, like Black and Asian communities in particular, those are the largest like racial minorities in the UK, or Black and Asian communities, are majority Christian and Muslim, and other faiths as well, like Hindu and Sikh, and so on and so forth, which is just like an interesting consideration. Have you all played the Red Strings Club? I forget if it's come up, but this questionnaire always reminds me of it. I don't think I've ever heard of it before, Lotus, so I'd be really curious to hear more about that. If you needed emergency surgery, would you agree to be operated on by a machine? Yeah, why not? Again, I don't think I have enough information. I've been under general anesthetic and had like invasive surgery before, and I consider that to be terrifying, whoever's doing it. I was absolutely fucking terrified to go under general anesthetic. I was like, I could maybe not wake up, because there's always some possibility of human error. It happens all the time. And I would say that the margin of error that there possibly could be with machine operated surgery, there's always going to be that margin of error, but equally, like, humans doing surgery, there's also a margin of error, you know what I mean? So why not? Again, I would need more information, but do you think one day machines could develop consciousness? I said yes. I think, again, for me personally, this answer probably does come from like a quite religious or spiritual place, because I'm very open to this, and I think my understanding of what consciousness is again, I think that this game potentially tries to raise a lot of like philosophical questions, and particularly like metaphysical questions about like the nature of the soul and like what it means to be human. And the thing is, like, for me, it is actually quite simple. What it means to be human, and what it means to be conscious, and what it means to be deserving of, like, rights and freedoms and liberation. And I think that, like, again, if it looks and acts like a sentient being, then it is one. You know, it has consciousness. I will never know the nature of that consciousness. I will never know how to define that consciousness. I believe in a soul, but I don't know that there's a soul. And if like conscious sentient androids became a reality, I would just be like, cool, you guys are people. Like, I will never understand or know the nature of that, but it doesn't really matter. That's kind of I guess that's kind of my take on some of these like philosophical questions that this game, and perhaps sci-fi like this, tries to pose, that I honestly personally find kind of superfluous. I remember taking a metaphysics class at university where I thought I would be interested in philosophy, and then I took that class and I was like, I never want to study philosophy ever again. I mean, there are certain areas of philosophy, like I think political philosophy and stuff, obviously, that I find interesting, but metaphysics I found so frustrating, because it was all about asking these circular questions about the nature of reality that we simply, like, can't have answers for, and I'm very at peace with that. And I think that that's partly just because I'm like, I believe in God, and it makes me feel very at peace with the fact that there are things that I don't know and can't know and will never know, and that's his business. That's not my business. Philosophers are wasting time and breath and energy on, and what's the reason? Like, why do we need to know? You know, who does it help? Like, what's the reason? I find it frustrating. Anyway, Red Strings Club is a cyberpunk bartending visual novel game. Certainly has its missteps, but it's pretty good. That sounds cool, Lotus. It sounds pretty interesting if this survey kind of reminds you of it. I definitely have to check that out. Also, on the point about religious trauma, I think, yes, a lot of people have religious trauma, but I think that what can kind of frustrate me sometimes is that, like, I would say, again, I don't necessarily know statistics. I think that there's a lot of people who have religious trauma. I think that there are a lot of people who have traumas of all kinds. I don't think that that, like, excuses us from certain, like, attitudes or behaviors that can be potentially racist. And I think that a lot of my issue with, like, full-on anti-theism as a response to, like, religious trauma, or the genuine, like, structural failings and structural violence of religious institutions, which is a problem. 100% it's a problem. Those are genuine, obviously huge problems, and there's enormous serious violence there. But I think to turn to a philosophy which is, like, basically just, like, very racist, very ignorant, in response to that trauma is, like, we need to do better, you know? Like, I can empathize with it, but we need to do better. And again, I can empathize with it, and, you know, I've been on a journey of my own to kind of reach these conclusions, so I would never, like, make judgments about that, but we need to be doing better, we need to be pushing further, for sure. Okay, so that took the first hour of the stream. That's the most on-brand thing that I think I could have done today. I really need a sip of water because I've just been talking my ass off. Should we play the game? Should we do that? should we actually play the game? Let's start a new story. Let's go. August 15th, 2038. Oh god. This guy. Oh, this fucking guy, and he meets the detective, and everyone, it's yaoi. Everyone ships that yaoi. Not me, because I hate men, and I'm homophobic.
Negotiator on site. Negotiator on site.
Sorry, I'm having a snack, and I should be playing the game. Oh, this motherfucker. Yeah. Okay, I also want to point out right off the bat. I don't know what Mr. Cage's intention was. I don't know if he's ever spoken about this in an interview, but immediately before getting into, like, any actual any narrative elements in this game, I'm getting into some visual and environmental storytelling by talking about the android's design, which is, as you can see, I'm laughing as I say this because it's so crazy to do this. The android has a blue band on his arm, and he also has a blue triangle on his chest. And I don't know if this imagery is familiar to some of you, but this is highly reminiscent of the ways that the Nazis branded particularly Jewish people, of course, but also other groups, and in this case LGBT people, queer people, that they wanted to mark for essentially their eugenicist project, to mark for segregation, to mark, in many cases, for systematic killing in the gas chamber. So with queer people, they would be marked with a pink triangle, and Jewish people, I know this, so I'm not sure about other groups and whether they had, like, the armbands as well, but Jewish people famously had an armband with a Star of David on it. So right off the fucking bat, this game is associating the androids as being marked as androids with images that invoke the way that the Nazis branded Jewish people and queer people for mass extermination. And that's like, holy shit, brother. Like, why on earth would you think that that's appropriate? But anyway. A shame because I think Connor has some of the better written parts of the game. I would probably agree with that. Also asking me to take the senior detective seriously when he's literally Mr. Krabs is hilarious. I know. I know the black triangle was for Roma people. Okay, I didn't know that, Faye, so appreciate you sharing that as well. But anyway, yeah, so right off the bat, Nazi imagery is being used for the androids, so that's the first clumsy race metaphor of the stream. Hold R2 to consult your objectives. Okay, so we got this shit where we're basically freezing time to look at the environment. Classic David Cage control scheme. You wanted to feel the movement, to move with the controller. You want to feel it like you're really in the game. Phillips Carolyn, born 23rd of May 2001. John Phillips, 1999. Emma Phillips, 2028. So we're in the future. I was gonna be like, I was born in 1997 and he looks older than me. That's a very stupid moment. That was very stupid. Stop doing that funny David Cage impression. It's making me laugh while I'm trying to figure out some fucking strategy space game. I'm not gonna apologize for making you people laugh. That's what I'm here for. Everyone lives in Detroit. It's worth noting as well, right off the bat, like, scene setting for this game, it's obviously called Detroit Become Human, it's set in Detroit. I'm not an expert on this by any means, it's worth looking it up more, but I'm very aware that Detroit and folks from the United States may know a lot more about this than me, but my understanding, and I would definitely double check this, look this up, my understanding is that Detroit has a very colored history of de-development, essentially like intentional policies of de-development by the United States government, or possibly the federal government, I don't know. Sorry, the federal government is the bigger one, isn't it? The state government is the smaller one, sorry guys. That have resulted in de-development across the city and huge amounts of like poverty across the city, and there's also like a big racialized population in Detroit, so a lot of the intentional de-development and poverty experienced in the city is amongst like black and racialized communities. Detroit is in Michigan, I believe, and this is also connected to policies in other areas of Michigan, so some people might know about Flint, Michigan, and the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, and again, I don't know loads about Detroit or Detroit's recent history or its general history, but the water crisis in Flint is a very good example of intentional de-development, right? Because it's a manufactured water crisis, it's not like a natural water crisis. And a manufactured water crisis means that political policies have led to a water crisis. People don't have access to clean water, and it's because of political policies that are leaving them without clean water, and similar kind of de-development has occurred in Detroit, and racialized people are disproportionately affected. Again, not an expert, don't know loads of details, but really worth looking it up. And it's also worth noting that this adds a lot. I feel that I want to say this now because I think it adds a lot to our reading of this game and some of the potential issues of this game. Like, one of those issues being that these characters are 2 out of 3 of these playable characters and many of the androids in general are like white or played by white actors, but the androids in general and their experiences are conveyed through various like messily shoved together racial metaphors, but like Detroit as a city actually has like a very important history of racial oppression and like poverty, that it's quite like quite crazy to be doing this. Yeah, anyway. Okay, the black triangle was for people marked as asocial, so this is back on the Nazis thing, which included Roma people as well as disabled people, homeless people, alcoholics, sex workers, etc. There's a lot going on there. Thank you for looking that up, and for sharing that information. Okay, I really love that he got rid of that insane control scheme from Heavy Rain, where you have to hold down right trigger.
Please, you gotta save my little girl. Wait. You're sending an android?
All right, ma'am. You need to go.
You can't do that. Why aren't you sending a real person? Joel, that thing here! Keep that thing away from me!
Save the fish. Why would I leave the fish? Obviously I'm gonna save the fish. Find Captain Allen. I think I'll take my time with that. Thank you very much. Oh my god, remember how these people are making a Star Wars game? Stop it. I'd forgotten about that. I'd actually forgotten about that. So they're working on that currently. They're currently making a Star Wars game. It's still in production. It's going to be released at some point. Because,
My men are ready to step in. Just give the order.
talk to Captain Allen first. So one of the things that this game tries to do is like visual representations of programming. So this is like a physical barrier which is coming into place, like an invisible wall. Like obviously we have that in games very often, but this invisible wall is a barrier that like represents the fact that his programming makes him incapable of walking in that direction. And I gotta give it credit, like it's quite an interesting aspect of this game. It obviously like comes into play later, in a way that, I mean, I think is a little bit heavy-handed metaphorically, but I think it's quite interesting in terms of like obviously the invisible wall is memed to shit in video games as like a form, and it's quite an interesting use of it. It's funny because Connor and Cal Kestis are borderline identical. That is really funny. As with any currently in development IP, especially Star Wars game that's alleged, LOL. God, everything's alleged. Who knows what's going on in the games industry, guys? There's something about how a lot of visual media associates digital technology of the sci-fi variety with this like particular shade of blue that I would be really interested in
Captain Allen,
knowing more about.
my name is Connor. I'm the android sent by CyberLife.
It's firing at everything that moves. It already shot down 2 of my men. We could easily get it, but they're on the edge.
Oh my
of the
god,
mountain.
it's pronouns.
If it falls.
Representation.
Falls.
Do you know its name?
I haven't got a clue. Does it matter?
I need information to determine the best approach. Do you know if it's been behaving strangely before this?
Listen, saving that kid is all that matters. So either you deal with this fucking android now, or I'll take care of it.
every second counts. It's funny that this situation is like almost identical to, and I mean I think this shows the level of creativity going on with some people, but it's like the situation in Heavy Rain where the FBI agent with the terrible accent, Agent Norman Jaden, he's trying to catch the origami killer. And this time my excuse for the bad New York accent is that his accent is terrible in the game. He needs information to develop the killer's psychological profile, and the bad cop Blake is all like, we need to find out like right now, and it's like this very badly written like false tension between the two of them, and Norman is, I mean, and this is obviously propaganda, and this game will have propaganda too, woohoo, that like Norman is represented as like the good cop who's like rational and wants information before he shoots people. Is almost identical in terms of like the storytelling it's doing and how it's trying to create like moral conflict within the player, but whatever. Clues. Analyzing clues. Sorry, what was that, sir? 3-5. Okay, whatever. I don't know anything about guns, so I don't know why I thought it would be useful for me to read that anyway. Black Hawk. 355 millimeter Black Hawk pistol or something. Okay. Ooh, okay. This is kind of fun. The deviant took the father's gun. Obviously, it's a little bit heavy-handed. That the androids that break their programming are called deviants, but whatever. LOL, yeah, it's so funny how EA's license over Star Wars games ran out, and yet not much has come from that fact yet. That's a good point. When did their license run out? Because we had Outlaws and Survivor and I don't know, I haven't really played a Star Wars game ever, but I'm aware of them. Aww. You saying I don't know what's going on in the games industry just reminded me. I was watching the Game Assist VODs of Double Exposure back on YouTube, and when you were like, what is going on in the House of Commons? Well, is that a meme that you guys... So, maybe that's like a particularly British meme that... So, I don't know if that's like a familiar meme to some of you guys, but the meme is like, what on earth is going on in the House of Commons? Which is also a good question, because like, what is going on in the House of Commons, like point blank period? So I don't know if anyone knows about the like parliamentary system in the UK, but the House of Commons is you have the House of Commons, which is like elected representatives, and then you have the House of Lords, which is like people who were appointed to be there, who were like super rich, and a lot of bills that go through the parliamentary system go first through the House of Commons and then through the House of Lords. Okay, 2023, that's when EA's license ran out. Part of what's difficult with transhumanist android stuff is that you have to have a really, really deft hand if you want to bring the realism into it while still making the androids sentient. I think most people go into sci-fi stories already believing the androids are secretly sentient, so the in-universe argument and treatment that they aren't always falls flat. I totally agree, Lotus. I think that that is one of the, like, major issues with this game, is that it's trying to set up, like, a moral quandary, and of course it's structured as a choose your own adventure game. Like, the main pull, or the main element of gameplay that's meant to kind of like be a pull for you to buy the game and play the game again and again and again and talk to people about it and watch other people playing it differently, is that it's choose your own adventure, so things can happen differently, you can choose different things. And part of what makes games like that work is when they're genuinely well written, and the choose your own adventure elements, like what you choose to do or not to do, is genuinely morally challenging. And if the fundamental premise that underpins like the moral quandary in the game is not difficult, then it's just not going to be a compelling game, because like that's the core of what makes a good choose your own adventure game. It's why I think that Telltale's The Walking Dead is so good. And it's why, you know, other games, full, like, choose your own adventure games, aren't as good or fall flat, you know? And I think that, at least for me, I don't want to speak for other people, but, like, I go into, stories with, like, the transhumanist android stuff, and as I was saying before, like, it's been done before, you know what I mean? Like, I've read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, I've watched Blade Runner, and, at this point, I don't need to, like, I'm pretty thoroughly convinced at this point that, like, in a theoretical future where, like, androids that look like humans exist, like, those are human beings. I believe they deserve, like, freedom and dignity and rights that human beings deserve. That is not a moral quandary to me. So it's just, like, it's not difficult or engaging. And I think that your analysis there is pretty apt. I wasn't familiar with that meme, but it made me laugh. It's a good meme. What on earth is going on in the House of Commons? Okay, so got a few clues here. You've unlocked a dialogue action, often beneficial for... I didn't read that properly, sorry. I was like looking somewhere else, and then the child didn't hear the gunshots because they had the headphones on. Well, there's that. Okay. That's everything from the hostages room.
All of you, nowhere on jump!
Okay, what's the other thing I need to unlock? Every second counts.
All units hold positions.
Examine the positions. Gotcha!
Ready to assault.
DPD officer was the first responder. Listen, I also, as you guys know, I also hate cops, so I don't really feel bad for them. Gunshot residue, blah blah blah, only one shot. Deceased, Anthony Decker, whatever. Bullet wound, right heart ventricle perforated, internal bleeding. That was a good shot. I mean, presumably he's an android and has that computer brain thing, so he actually could be like, I'm gonna shoot for the heart and get it right in the in the right ventricle of the heart, because what are the fucking chances that you would shoot someone in the chest and it would get them exactly in their right ventricle? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna admit it, this is like pretty fun. Cop shot the deviant. Hostage witnessed the shooting. And the weapon has been located, which means that I can pick up the weapon. But I don't want to shoot anybody, so... When I say anybody, I mean androids, because androids are people, but cops are not. And that's going to be the title of the next stream. Now, when it comes to android cops, I think that the cop cancels out the android. I'll take it, you know. Helps be armed. You've unlocked a dialogue.
Oh shit! Cover me while I man down. Repeat, man down, requesting immediate evac.
Oh, are more people dying? So that's the every second counts thing. But again, it's like, bold of you to assume that I care if cops die.
Just over an hour since a little girl was taken hostage on the top floor of a building here in downtown Detroit. Details are still emerging on what exactly happened.
Yeah, the detective vision stuff is fun. I'll give it that. I'll give it that. Listen, I love to goof on David Cage, but I'm not gonna, you know, if I like something, I'm not gonna... Oh, another cop down! Literally, who cares? Get him, buddy! Sorry, I'll catch up with the other comments in a second, guys. Bullet wound, lung, internal bleeding. Okay, it's also worth saying. Let me just analyze all these clues. That's the father, he's dead. Rest in peace. It's also worth saying. So, I've actually been reading more about this recently for work, but you know, in the video essay that we made about Life is Strange True Colors, I talk about social reproduction theory, and I love social reproduction theory. I think it's so useful for having or developing like a Marxist feminist politics, like a really robust understanding of like of Marxist feminism, and like a really robust understanding of like how gender politics, racial politics, and capitalism are all connected. And one of the, it's obviously a broad field, social reproduction theory, one of the things that has recently come out of it, looking at like recent trends of like neoliberal feminism and global capitalism, is that under neoliberal feminism, we've of course had these narratives that, you know, a woman's freedom is her right to choose to work, to, you know, work a paying job, a salaried job, be an entrepreneur, whatever the fuck, like to be in traditionally male-dominated or masculinized fields of work or forms of labor. That's like what a woman's freedom is. That's why women are free in Western society. They can dress how they want, they can get whatever jobs they want, blah, blah, blah. And more women are entering work and are not staying at home or don't have the time to stay at home and do domestic labor. But there is not a correlating trend of men staying in the home or doing more domestic labor. So the result of that, because domestic labor, or the labor of social reproduction, of reproducing and maintaining life, so care, cooking, cleaning, etc., that care is like necessary for life to exist. Like life cannot exist if you're not eating. You cannot live if you don't eat. You cannot live if your space is not clean, because you can literally get diseases from like mold and shit. Like you cannot live if you're not being cared for, if you're disabled or you break a bone or you're sick, you know? These forms of labor that are feminized, they're essential to life. And what we're seeing is that like men are not doing more of that labor, but women are doing less of it. And I should say white women, because one of the resulting things that is happening is that the more and more white women are spending time outside of the home and not doing domestic and social reproduction labor. Somebody has to do that labor. So who is doing that labor? Who cleans the house? Who cooks dinner? And the trends that are happening is that this labor is being increasingly displaced onto poor racialized women, often immigrant women. And increasingly people have live-in servants, live-in nannies, and they're almost always women of color, right? And these are what are referred to as global care chains. It's a huge trend in Canada, the United States, Europe, Israel, places like this. And of course, this is a class issue as well. So because the women, the families where like the women are working and the men are working and they can afford to pay an Asian woman to live in their house and do all of the domestic labor for them and like abuse that woman, are like upper middle class, like rich families. That is something I think is quite interesting to think about in dialogue with this game, and particularly this opening scene in the game, because this is a family that has bought an android. I don't know what labor this android does, but we know for sure that this android cares for their child. So this android is like a live-in carer. Perhaps he cooks, perhaps he cleans, perhaps because why wouldn't he, right? And so this is yet another area. You know, we're talking about this game, it's various clumsy race metaphors, but actually this is gendered labor as well as a racialized form of oppression in modern society. So now we're looking at a different era of history as well. We had a Nazi metaphor, and that was talking about like the 1940s, and now we're looking at the present day and these kinds of trends and these kinds of racialized and gendered labor, and the androids are the stand-in for that. So another clumsy race metaphor from Mr. Cage is that the androids are part of these global care chains. That's crazy shit, you know what I'm saying? Much to think about. If only there were a review on youtube.com/gameassist about a game with maybe citizens and sleepers that goes into ideas around android autonomy, gender, capitalism, and more. If only, Gazebo Kids. It's funny that you say that, because there is in fact a review of Citizen Sleeper 2 by the wonderful Fiona, who may or may not be the one behind the account Gazebo Kids. Crazy. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. On the Game Assist YouTube account. You should check that out if you want to check out a game that does some really interesting stuff in terms of the politics of androids. Also, trying to analyze some of the game design choices, I feel like the standard androids having the little blue circle really evokes that branding and Holocaust imagery, like you said. Yeah, absolutely. But if we were allowed to meet DBH's world as it's written, it would be like, well, of course they have the little circle. The power button on my PC lights up blue when it's on and turns yellow, and something is wrong too. Okay, that's interesting, Lotus. I feel that I'm not actually like clear on what you're trying to say, because I understand what you're saying about like in the, if we're taking the game's logic and we're not necessarily doing a political analysis, then like, yeah, an android having a power button is fine, but I'm not sure I take your meaning of what you're pointing out there. So if you don't mind explaining, that would be helpful. Quantic Dream make beautiful and technically extremely well made games. It just be that story though. Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's just, you're not like entirely wrong. I think that like if there was actual good writing, actual good narrative design, then these games would slap. But the writing is simply so terrible. And we know who to blame for that, because he tells us every time. Written and directed by David Cage. Okay. Sorry, I'm just changing the lighting situation in my bedroom, because the sun is starting to go down. Fuck that press and hold mechanic from Heavy Rain, though. You're so right. It's true. Father was holding something. Okay. What? What was he? Oh, right. The tablet. The music is getting intense, but once again, it's just cops' lives at stake, so I don't really care. Oh, the Deviant was going to be replaced. I think something worth saying about this is like actually one of the more useful ways to think about media like this is not to think what if androids were human and they were like oppressed in these ways, but is perhaps to actually look at the android as a metaphor for real people, you know? And what I mean by that is like, so I just had that whole thing where I was discussing this particular android being analogous in his experience to women of color that work as live-in domestic servants in like rich white households in the global north, creating these global care chains. And I think that like on a political level we could be like, the way that those women are treated is that they are dehumanized, they are treated like they are replaceable, they are denigrated, they are exploited, they are treated like robots. Do you know what I'm saying? So I guess I kind of want to flip it on its head a little bit. And I guess this is kind of what I was doing a little bit in the zombie video essay and the Walking Dead video essay, is that I'm saying, what if we think about like real people through the idea of the zombie? Like the zombie is a metaphor for real people. Like the zombie is a metaphor for socially dead people. The zombie is a metaphor for like houseless people, undocumented people. And what the power of that is in being like, that is how those people are treated in our society. Like they're dehumanized, they're seen as monsters, they're seen as, you know, disposable, to be killed, to be, you know, and it's justified to kill them. And the zombie as a metaphor helps us think through that material oppression. And I guess that I want to think about it in that way, or flip it in that way, because then instead of getting caught up in the media and in the representation, we're using the media and we're using the representation to think about the world that we live in, and hopefully to do something about it and to try to change the world that we live in. So I hope that that makes sense, but I think that that's like where my thinking is going in that regard. That just kind of came to me now, but it might be a helpful way of thinking through the androids in this game. Lotus says, I think DBH is never successful at presenting its world realistically, which makes all of its writings just completely fall apart. It depends too much upon being a sci-fi game that people want to play with androids who want to be people, which is not about race. David Cage told me so. I think I see what you mean, yeah. I think I see what you mean. And it's trying very hard to be realist, but it's not very good at it, which is part of the problem. I know that I often talk about being like very anti-realist, but I'm not like inherently against realism. Like there's quite a bit of realism that I like. But yes. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I can also see that he's trying to construct like, oh, the quandary is that like you could spend all of this time getting the information so that you could talk him down in a non-violent way and you don't have to hurt him, or you could rush into it and stop him as soon as possible, even if that makes violence necessary because it stops him from committing violence to others. But they're crucially missing that like this is an exploited, oppressed man, and the only people that he's killing are armored police. So I guess it's one of those things again where like violence is like decontextualized or like depoliticized, and I'm like, well, the armor must be pretty shit. You're right about that. It's just, look, it's telling me that I have more things to unlock, so why wouldn't I just unlock the things, you know? I could take my time with this.
Stay sharp.
It's, yeah, again, to talk about this game's merits, it looks fucking good. And this is, I mean, such a huge improvement in that regard on previous Quantic Dream titles. I must say it plays a lot smoother so far. I think that Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls are quite like clumsy in terms of the gameplay, and not in like an interesting or fun way, but just in a like, why is this the game design choice that you made way?
We should take down this asshole.
Sorry, it's funny that he likes it. That's all. Fresh blue blood. But we all bleed the same color! Colorblind, colorblind, colorblind. I find games like this that are very, you have to do this thing right now, it's so urgent, and yet it lets you take all the time in the world, really funny. Me too. Me too. Not to be like ludonarrative dissonance, but you know. Sound the ludonarrative dissonance klaxon. This is also one of those scenes that makes me go 200 IQ, and then I remember the creators and get brought back down to earth. I think to myself, well, this is so unrealistic. This is a US and Detroit SWAT team, and they would have blown this robot to smithereens before Connor was even in the car. But I go, oh, it's because the android isn't a robot, he's property, and that's what the society values. And then I'm like, well, okay, that was fun, but they didn't mean that shit, lol. Lotus... Can I just say I love having you here? I mean, you're a pleasure to have around always. Love having you in the Discord server, but it's a pleasure to have you in the chat. Can I just say that? Oh, spam. Yeah, it's funny you say that as well, because you're so right to be like, anything that you would be playing this game and like analyzing and being like, oh my god, like I'm reading the text and it's you know, so clever, and then you're like, David Cage is an idiot, and this was definitely not authorial intent. But you know, God bless Roland Barthes, who theorized death of the author, am I right? What you are observing with regards to property is obviously an interesting political point, because we have another clumsy race metaphor in the chat. Enter clumsy race metaphor number 3, slavery. Androids, of course, are personal property. I think personal property. Yeah, personal property in this universe. I think perhaps the line between personal property and other kinds of property. I think personal property. We'll come back to that. I'm not going to get too into Marxist terms right now. Forget. The androids are property, okay? The android is property of this family. And, of course, slaves were not enslaved people legally in the United States context, we're particularly talking about the transatlantic slave trade and slavery within the United States, it should be said, have the status not of people but of property. As I recall, that's going to come up more in this game, so that's great, isn't it? I just want to like bring that up to once again. Like, I know I've just talked about how like the domestic labor stuff is like related to this, and I'm like, okay, this is saying something very real about the experiences of women of color in our society today, but I'm looking at a white man experiencing those things, and equally like the android slavery thing, but I'm looking at like a bunch of white people being enslaved, and it's like very jarring in that regard, and it's one of the reasons why like race metaphors are so deeply uncomfortable to me, because it also has that level of like, and again, I think this is why it's so important for me, as I've said, to flip the way that we engage with the metaphor to the way that we engage with the politics of the text, to be like, androids, we're not thinking like about androids as oppressed people in the game text. We're not trying to focus too much on the fantasy of it, but instead we're trying to use the androids as a metaphor to understand real life oppression. And the thing that we often see with people who really like these kinds of metaphors and like really heavily engage in them is that they find it easier to empathize with white people, and that's the long and short of it, right? And they find it more comfortable to think about oppression as if it's this like theoretical fantasy thing, and to not think about what's actually happening to people. So that's, again, part of the reason why I kind of want to flip it in that way. Also, yeah, welcome GB and welcome Bitter Now. I'm so sorry I didn't welcome you guys earlier. Thank you for being here. I was making breakfast, so wasn't near the screen to type in chat while the conversation was happening, but to the triangle and band thing, I would entertain the possibility of it being an accident if it was any other game, but given that this game repeatedly takes the imagery and symbols of other marginalized groups' oppression and use it for the androids, I find that hard to believe. Yeah, I think, you know, often I don't necessarily like care this way or that about authorial intent, but it's so clearly authorial intent in this game, because this game is so replete with clumsy race metaphors. Sorry, I'm just going back a little bit in the chat. I'm from Texas. I've played these games before. It's just nice to have you here, Lotus. You're just smart and cool, and I love having you here and seeing everything you have to say. There's a game called Unsighted that I really love, where there's an in-game timer that you have to beat the game within that time frame, or you just fail. Certain characters might permanently die if you don't help them in time, so the sense of urgency is actually real. I mean, it's a great point on the game design front. It's like, it's just, you know, I don't feel the urgency. You know, they want me to be like, they're telling me, oh, it's super urgent, but like on a design level, it's not making me feel the urgency. Also, interestingly, about robot people and transhumanist concepts explored in that game. Awesome. I actually don't know if people are that concerned about damaging their androids, though. I mean, people also weren't that concerned about damaging their slaves, because, you know, they like beat their slaves all the time. So sorry, just catching up. Me trying to figure out if they chose the triangle for the levels, or if it's just because the triangle is one of the most science fiction shapes. God, David Cage. David Cage. Sorry, that wasn't French, was it? I don't know why I said it like that.
Don't come any closer or I'll jump!
No, please, I'm begging you!
Okay. Potentially there was more information that I could have got, but whatever.
Hi, Daniel! My name is Connor.
How do you know my name?
I know a lot of things about you. I've come to get you out of this.
builds trust, approach slowly.
I'm an android, just like you. I know how you're feeling.
Yeah, but you're a
Difference is
cop
you're an
android.
android.
Yeah.
You're on their side.
Yeah! Get him!
You can't understand how I'm feeling. Are you armed?
Sorry, that's really funny. Not to like unpack every little thing, but again, that's what you're here for, because that's who I am as a person. That totally was like an identity politics moment of like a police officer is like a woman or a black person, and they're being like, I'm just like you, I experience racism, I experience misogyny, and you're like, yeah, but you're a cop though. You're on their side. This is identity. Don't do identity politics in this situation.
Yes, I have a gun.
Drop it. No sudden moves or I'll shoot.
There. No more gun. I know you and Emma were very close. You think she betrayed you, but she's done nothing wrong.
She lied to me. I thought she loved me. But I was wrong. She's just like all the other humans.
Daniel, no!
Daniel, no! This is heavy rain quality child voice acting right now.
They were going to replace you, and you became upset. That's what happened, right?
Oh, thank you for flashing
thought I
back
was
to the
part of
thing that I
them.
saw 2 minutes ago.
I thought I mattered. But I was just their toy. Something to throw away when you're done with it.
Wow, this is just like when Sonic jumped from a gun helicopter in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Shadow didn't want to talk because gun is his enemy. I'm always talking about the parallels between David Cage's Detroit Become Human and Sonic the Hedgehog 3, you know? In particular with this opening segment, it's trying to be a tutorial, but maybe don't try to be a cool scene about a cop solving a stressful case at the beginning of the story so you get a feel for how they work kind of opening. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I agree.
Listen, I know it's not your fault. These emotions you're feeling are just errors in your
Listen,
software.
we're just two
No.
white men
It's not
who
my
are
fault.
representing very real,
I never wanted this.
multiple, clumsily
I love
meshed
them.
together modes of oppression that racialized people have actually experienced throughout history and to this day across the world.
You know? But I was nothing to them. Just a slave to be ordered around.
You dropped the word slave. Okay.
I can't stand that noise anymore. Tell that helicopter to get out of here.
The situation is under control.
There. I did what you wanted. You have to trust me, Daniel. Let the hostage go, and I promise you, everything will be fine.
I want everyone to leave. And I want a car. When I'm outside the city, I'll let her go.
That's impossible, Daniel. Let the girl go, and I promise you won't be hurt.
I don't want to die.
You're not going to die. We're just going to talk. Nothing will happen to you. You have my word.
Okay. I trust you.
Obviously this feels really icky because I'm a cop, and even though I'm being nice to him, I'm not to hurt him, I'm just manipulating him before they kill him. And that is the eternal quandary of games making you play a fucking cop because cops are fundamentally evil and the things they do are fundamentally violent, whether or not
lied to
they
me,
try to be
Connor.
nice about it.
You lied to me.
And I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't want to. Me when I lie. So true. I wish all cops are very redacted. So true. Here's the thing though, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is unironically better than anything Cage has ever made. I believe you. I do. I haven't played Sonic the Hedgehog 3, but I believe you. Title screen. I assume. Oh, never mind. That was anticlimactic. This is the scenes flowchart. So actually, I'm pretty interested in your guys' opinions about this aspect of the game because I have mixed feelings about it. This is the scenes flowchart. Here you can review the paths you've taken, the paths yet to be explored, and what possibilities you've unlocked. Each node earns you points that you can spend in the extras. Due to the nature of this game, some nodes and endings will not be counted towards the completion of the flowchart. So, of course, this is a choose your own adventure game, and they end each scene with a flowchart that like lays out all of the choices that you have made, and what can happen. Now, I have mixed feelings about this because I don't know if I love a game like laying out for you the chain of consequence, because then it makes it feel super two-dimensional. Like any of the nuance of like choice and consequence and how like little choices or dialogue options can lead to certain unexpected consequences, and you don't know which choices or which dialogue options led to which consequences. And I really like that kind of game design in choose your own adventure games because it feels like more real to me. It feels more difficult to me because, and I'm not necessarily saying I'm like pure 100% advocate for like invisibilizing the narrative design process, but I think that when you like lay out visually the narrative design process in this way, I think it takes out some of the magic and some of the emotional impact of games like this, and I think it also reduces these scenes to, and I know that a lot of people like metagame these kind of games anyway and approach them in this way either way, but it feels like it reduces it to like a collectible situation where you just replay the scenes to get collectibles and to fill out the chart. And I don't know if I love that personally. I think it takes out some of the emotional impact that games like this could have, and I think it's one of several things that we've already talked about that kind of make this game a bit lackluster emotionally. I do hate this game conceptually, but the menus really do remind me of the PS360 era of games where they tried to imagine a cool future where everything looked futuristic and clean. Yeah, very that. Very, very that. I'm not saying like, I don't know if I want to have put forward an opinion that's like, this is inherently bad and I don't think any games should be doing this kind of like choice menu, but like I personally don't like it. I think it takes the emotional impact away and it kind of makes the experience like feel a bit weird. I don't really know. I personally don't really like it. Yeah, that's fair enough, Lost and Fairy. I think I kind of like not knowing. I think that it really just takes out some of the magic to see it all laid out like this for me. Okay, anyway, I'm not gonna go over the whole, like, chart here, but basically, I think that someone on the SWAT team was injured because I took too much time. Don't know, don't care. negotiate with the deviant, and I lied to him and built trust, and then the sniper shot him, and there are a few other ways that it could go down. Okay, I think we're moving on to the next character now.
This is the top-of-the-range household assistant. It cooks 10,000 different dishes.
Come on, Zoe, let's go.
200 languages and dialects. And handles the kids' homework for elementary school up to. Good afternoon.
Okay, so this is gonna come up like way more, because I think we're about to play Kara. This is gonna come up way more in Kara's plotline, but I think that all of the stuff that I was saying about like androids being stand-in for like live-in domestic laborers is a big part of the themes of this game for sure, and being like some of these androids are literally being designed and sold for the purpose of being live-in domestic servants. And the question that raises for me is like, so I guess like, you know, the question that I was kind of raising earlier, I don't know if you can hear my cat, but she's just jumped on the table. Hi, Layla. Is like, so before it's like, if white women, if middle-class white women don't clean the house, who cleans the house? Now the question is, if androids are cleaning the house, then what is the political situation with regards to domestic labor? How is that developed? Like, what has happened to the employment of those women of color? And like, how has that political situation shifted? Do you know what I mean? Because like, if androids are now doing those jobs, it means that those people don't have those jobs anymore. So what are their jobs now? And what is the landscape of like domestic labor and global care chains now? You know what I mean? And that's like a big question that I would have from this kind of development in a science fiction universe, and it's not one that this game I think ever gives us. And I mean, I'm not surprised, because David Cage. Hi, KBK Clips. I wanted to get Detroit Become Human. I mean, I said it earlier that like, I think that this game is in a lot of ways like really, really fucking goofy, but I kind of am here to play it today because I want to have a goof. So if you expect it to be like a super good, super interesting game, then maybe not that. But if you want like a fun, goofy time, then why not get Detroit Become Human?
Can I help you, please?
Honey, it looks amazing. This is exactly what we need.
How much did you say it cost? At the moment, we're doing
Customize your Android.
And
it's like clothes.
$99 with a 48 months interest-free credit. And it comes with a 2-year warranty for
Pre-owned
parts and
androids.
painting, plumbing,
Pre-owned
gardening,
spare parts.
repairs.
Her.
At night, it switches to surveillance mode and contacts emergency
yours
services
today.
if there's a break-in or if it detects smoke.
These are spare parts.
The NP800 is slightly more expensive, but it has many other functions. Come along and I'll show you.
I don't like this guy.
Hey.
There it is. It's a bit difficult getting it back in working order.
Okay.
It was really messed up. What'd you say happened to it again?
The car hit it. Stupid accident.
Ah, I see. Anyway, it's as good as new now, except that we had to reset it. Meaning we had to wipe its memory. I hope you don't mind.
That'll be fine.
Okay. Did you give it a name?
My daughter did.
AX400. Register your name.
Kara.
My name is Kara.
Hi, Layla. You guys can't see Layla right now, but she's in the way. You're in the way of my keyboard right now, aren't you, Layla? Oh, she wants to cuddle. Sorry, one sec. My kitty cat is just getting in my in the way of my keyboard. Aren't ya? Aren't ya? Oh, she's so cute. Sorry, I can't go show you guys a cat right now, but I promise you she's being very cute. Welcome back, Aeon. I got Pablo cuddling next to me too. Oh, very cute. Say hello to Pablo for me. You might be able to hear Layla's little chirps now. Okay, alright. I'm gonna just maneuver around you a little bit, Layla, so that you can sit on the table with me. Oh, here we go. Title screen. We made it after 2 hours. Welcome to Detroit, Android City. Again, this is very interesting considering what we discussed about Detroit earlier. Clearly also a very industrial city. Layla, I'm trying to watch the game right now. Sorry, play the game. The emotional music with montage and credit sequence is so David Cage. Oh my god, it's the rain. It's the heavy rain. Sorry. It's the rain. It's the heavy rain. It invokes the emotions. The heavy rain. It invokes les émotions. I lost my job because of androids. Help me. That's also, oh my god, another clumsy race metaphor. That's clumsy race metaphor number 4. Is anti-migrant rhetoric. Layla, you're literally in front of the mic right now. Written and directed by David Cage. There it is. That's anti-migrant rhetoric. Migrants took my job. Okay, we're not playing as Kara yet. We're playing as Pretty Boy. Okay, we're not going to talk about that black woman android being a domestic servant taking care of a white girl or anything. Jesse Williams, that's the name of this actor. I don't know who the other actors are, but I know who Jesse Williams is because he's the pretty boy from Grey's Anatomy. Oh my god, okay, and his character, he also, his job is elderly care, right? So he's like a carer for an elderly, rich man. Rich white man, I should say. It's significant. I'm in the park. It's full. Bellini Paints is not this way. Okay. Well, I can't just go for a walk in the park? Retrieve order 847 at Bellini Paints. Go to Bellini Paints. I can't just go for a walk in the park? Wow. Androids really are oppressed. There's an invisible wall that stops me from going on a walk in the park. Alright. Here is Jesse Williams, indeed. Android work ahead.
Hurry up,
Right, so this is interesting. The boss is a human and the workers receiving orders are androids. Wait for green lights. Wow, I literally can't break the rules. Can't believe I can't. My programming says I can't jaywalk. And it wouldn't even be jaywalking because this is a pedestrian crossing. Although, wait, you guys don't have like zebra crossings in the US the way we do you? Thank you, Jesus Christ. Oh, sorry, not the heavy rain setting. Again, it is a fun twist on the whole video game thing of like you have to follow the path and you can't cross the invisible wall, but the game is actually giving you like a narrative reason for it. I'll give them credit for that. Oh, cops. Jeez.
There you go. Thanks.
That's a human cop, and that is an android cop. Bellini Paints is not this way.
These are supposed to be in base 7.
Actually, you know, the more I'm thinking about it as I'm playing this game, and I think that as the game goes on, I will chew on it some more, but like, it has all of these clumsy race metaphors going on. But I actually think that one of the race metaphors that is not necessarily like explicitly, or as far as I can tell or as I can assume, doesn't feel like intentionally or thoughtfully used, is the migrant labor thing. And I talked about it before with global care chains, and it's come up a few times in this scene, like the migrant labor thing. So, I mean, it's there a little bit, I guess. But it's like the game is heavy-handedly using, like, it uses the language of slavery, it uses the Holocaust and Nazi imagery, it uses, like, you know, Martin Luther King quotes and whatever, like civil rights movement stuff, and it's all very clumsy and very messy, and but like, I actually think that the migrant labor paradigm is probably the most apt one in a lot of ways. I'm not saying that it maps perfectly, but I think that it's the most useful or interesting way for thinking about like the androids like material position in this universe, and again, very importantly, for, you know, using the androids as a metaphor to think about real people in our world. I think this is most analogous to like the present day experience of migrant, particularly racialized migrant laborers. Oh, what's this? Self-driving vehicle. Gotcha. Sorry, I keep forgetting that R2 is that thing. I can't talk to the houseless man? Okay. James and Carter.
Back to this again. Do it with my eyes closed. Mark's missing man.
Right.
How the hell am I supposed?
Oh my god, it's the premise of Carol and Tuesday, the anime. Kind of. Not really. A little bit. Okay, I mean, I think saying that it was music with soul was a little bit generous. Sorry. I think I'm too used to playing Heavy Rain. I keep pressing R2 as though that's gonna get me to move.
35% unemployment, millions out of work. Are we going to do something? We want jobs. Not more androids. We need to ban androids now. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Androids are stealing.
Okay, but that's not what's happening, is it? But again, it's the same as like with migrant labor rhetoric. It's like, oh, like immigrants are stealing our jobs, but what's actually happening is that the corporations are getting people who are vulnerable and exploiting them for cheap labor. And they are not your enemies. The corporations are the enemies. The androids didn't ask to be made in order to do unpaid labor. Designed by CyberLife, assembled in Detroit. Okay, that's interesting. So, part of what's going on here seems to be that Detroit is like where androids have been innovated, and Detroit's main export has become androids, which is
our schools,
interesting.
our factories, they take our jobs. They mind our children. They care for our old. Why do you look at me so, demon? I know who you are. I can see through you. You are the one by whom the evil will come. You are the one who will destroy Detroit. We can no longer live without these slaves obeying our every selfish desire. We prefer to live with machines than with our own kind.
We want jobs.
Technology.
Okay, but do you want jobs or do you want, you know, communism? Just saying. God, me trying to explore the environment, the game. Bellini Paints is not this way. Okay, so they're talking about the soul thing quite a bit, so I am wondering if they're gonna try and bring religious themes into this a little bit, which is like a whole other conversation. I'm sure we'll get to it. I can't go to the, can I not go to the movies right now? Like, why do I have to go to Bellini Paints? The Target. Raken, Invasion, After Mankind, Anna Maverick, Kiln Rock, Memory. Okay, I don't know what that. I guess that's the list of The Target, Raken, The Last Guardian, Invasion, After Mankind, 3021, and Anna Maverick and The Lost Kings. You know, all of these movies are look like they've been made with like AI now as well. That's probably what's happened as well. Can we talk about the movie industry in these games and like what's happened to Hollywood? Okay, I see the Bellini Paints is here, but I'm trying to explore. Temporary parking. That's crazy. They've made it a point to make it visible that houselessness is an issue in Detroit, in this version of Detroit, but I assume also in present-day Detroit. Arrived at Bellini Paints. Fucking finally.
Identification verified. Here is your order number 847. That will be $63.99. Please confirm payment.
Oh my god. This is it. We're gonna have brain technology so that Apple Pay isn't enough. We're gonna start using fucking brain technology to make contactless payments.
Payment confirmed. Transaction complete.
Baggage collected. Take bus home. Wow. Sustainable king taking public transport. Use R1 to switch camera angle. Oh, thanks David Cage. Classic. Anyway, now the game is going to be like, now you can engage with the protest. Content warning, because I think that what's about to happen is that Marcus is going to get, like, racially harassed for being an android. But I guess at least Jesse Williams is actually a black man, so... makes it a little less cringe than if I was playing Connor and getting racially harassed.
Machines, ladies and gentlemen, are meant to serve us.
Yeah!
Not.
Where the fuck you going, Tin Can? Hmm?
What are you doing?
Hey guys, check it out. We got one of those tin cans here.
They're everywhere, you idiot.
Look at this little motherfucker. You steal our jobs, but you can't even stand up.
Sorry, classic David Cage dialogue right now. You job stealer! Yeah, you deserve it!
We're gonna fuck your bitch ass up. Yeah, waste it.
Do it!
Acting,
Alright.
writing.
It's enough. Leave it alone.
Let us teach this bastard a lesson.
Damage it, I'm gonna have to find you.
That's someone's personal property, man.
We're gonna take your job next.
And if a cop is one thing, it's someone who protects property.
Let's go. Run along.
Can't have property damage.
We got families to feed, and these androids.
By the way, I think I put it on my recommendation list for the last month, but I recently read Andreas Malm's How to Blow Up a Pipeline, and oh, interesting. No entry for purchased androids, which means that androids cannot purchase androids. AP 700, housekeeping, babysitting, and cooking. So this model is literally like a domestic laborer. Yep. Okay. It's interesting. What was I gonna say? Yeah. How to Blow Up a Pipeline. It's pretty much. It's mostly focused on like. So I wouldn't say that it like pushed forward my political thinking necessarily, but I think it was a very useful resource. And it's definitely going to be very helpful for communicating to others about political violence, but it mostly focuses on like property damage and why property damage is a justified version of political violence. Because, you know, corporations, governments, they care about their property, and if you damage their property, then they might do something. And also, like, why, on the flip side, why do people act like property damage is more... Oh my god, sorry, we'll get into that in a second. Property damage is more, like, morally reprehensible than, like, genocide, you know what I mean? Like, why do some people think that breaking, like, a bank's windows is unjustifiable, but genocide is fine. Another clumsy race metaphor. Yeah, that's right. I think this is clumsy race metaphor number 5. I think I'm gonna have to start writing these down, you guys. I'm literally looking for a piece of paper right now to like write down all of the clumsy race metaphors. I can't find any. Wait. Because there are so many I can't keep track. So this is number 5, pretty sure. And this is Jim Crow. Okay, so I think the first one was the Holocaust / like how Nazis marked people during the Holocaust. And then there was slavery, particularly the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, and then we were like migrant labor. What was the other one? There was another one, I think. I'm trying to remember what the other one was. The other clumsy race metaphor. We have at least 4 clumsy race metaphors now. But anyway, this is number 4 or number 5. I'll try to remember what the one that I've potentially skipped over is. Jim Crow. So we have ourselves racially segregated public space. In particular, we have a racially segregated bus where there is an android compartment, for people who don't know, under Jim Crow laws in the United States. For many years after the formal abolition of slavery, of course, slave labor still very much exists in the United States, particularly through the prison system. Segregation of black people and white people in public space in society persisted for many decades until the Civil Rights Movement and the ensuing Civil Rights Act abolished segregation, and famously, Rosa Parks' protest against Jim Crow laws was physically done by violating the racial segregation of public space on a bus and by sitting in the white compartment rather than the black compartment. So there we go, Jim Crow. Oh, okay, potentially Martin Luther King quotes was the other one. Yeah, I'm not sure if I would give that a class of its own, but it's definitely in there. I think maybe MLK is kind of, I don't know if like, yes, the civil rights movement is like its own category, because MLK is kind of like part of that. But then that's also like connected to Jim Crow. So I'd have to figure out if I'd want to categorize that as 2 different clumsy race metaphors, but we'll come back to it. I'm making a list now. I have a piece of paper in front of me. I'm making a list now. Stop it. This scene is called Shades of Color. Stop. That's David Cage. David Cage. David Cage, you did not call this scene Shades of Color. That's so crazy. That's so crazy. David Cage was like sitting in his writing room on his own because obviously he doesn't have any other writers. He doesn't work on a team. He's not a team worker. He's an auteur. He sits in his bedroom on his, like Alan Wake, he sits in his room on his own with his little typewriter, writing out his little games. And he's sitting in his room with his fancy little typewriter writing the script for Detroit Become Human. And he's like, oh my god, okay, sorry. Oh my god, okay. I'm cooking, I'm thinking there is, in the scene there is the paint, and also there is the android, and he is going to buy the paint, but also he is being discriminated against racially, and so it has the, how do you say, the double meaning of referring to the paint, but also how the androids are oppressed, almost as though they are people of color. I'm sure he was so proud of that. LOL. I know. David, what are we gonna do with you, David? Walking in the park. Marcus, he was just trying to go for a walk in the park, you know what I mean? Anyway, I could have stared at the hot dog vendor, apparently, but I didn't do that. Read Secret of Androids and read Climate Change Up. Oh, okay, I missed those. Apologies. Listen to Busker. Watch Preacher. Preacher yells at Marcus. Protesters harass Marcus. Collect package. Marcus takes the bus. Okay, well, I missed a couple of things, but that's whatever. Public opinion. Skeptical. Okay. I love sweeping statements about public opinion. Here we go. Okay, so this is the content warning for domestic abuse and child abuse for this section. That will be coming, and we're talking physical abuse. Joining on Kara, hate that for— yeah, I'm so sorry. You're joining on the Kara scene. That's rough. You've not played it before? You're in for a fucking wild ride. I actually can't wait for you to experience this for the first time. Okay, so I know that I mentioned before that—
Coming?
Yeah, wait a minute, dude. I mentioned before— okay, I can't go that way because of her programming— that I knew marginally that Detroit was very de-developed because of like government policies, and it's like a very, very segregated, very poor, very racialized city and very industrial city. Not an expert on Detroit's history at all, but they've made a point of showing us that this neighborhood is very run down. And I just think that it's worth noting that. For how we engage with or how we read this situation. I also— okay, now that I know that someone is here who has not played this game before, I'm gonna try not to like spoil things too much, but what I will say about the Kara stuff is that, do I think that Kara's writing is probably some of the worst in the game? Is Kara worse written than Marcus? Not sure. They're both written pretty badly. Unsurprisingly, Kara is the woman that you can play as, and Marcus is a black man. So they're both pretty badly written. But this stuff potentially makes me the most emotional because I'm very easily emotionally manipulated into this kind of a story. Because it is like a cheap trick to emotionally manipulate people, but I'm very easily emotionally manipulated into this specific kind of scenario.
You've been gone for 2 weeks, so the place is a mess.
I'm speaking my truth.
You do the housework, the washing, you cook the meals, and you take care of... God damn it, where the fuck's the brat gone now? Alice!
Ready to buckle up.
Alice!
Strap in, Charlotte.
Oh, there you are. That's Alice. You look after her. Homework, bath, all that crap. Got it?
Yes, Todd.
Get started down here, then you do upstairs.
Okay, Joy, this section of the game is live-in domestic laborer simulator. So love that for us. But I'm a white woman with an American accent, and again, it's worth reiterating that most people who are living this experience are racialized or migrant women, like white migrant women.
TV on.
Oh my god. Kara. You can do it. You can do it, Kara. Kara. Oh my god. David Cage control schemes. Okay, collect trash. Collect.
Yeah. Maybe. Depends on what you need. Yeah, I can get that.
Take the trash out? There's more trash than that, I feel. So, hold on.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought this game was earlier than 2018. Oh, yeah?
Yeah, same place. You knew where.
It's kind of crazy that this came out in 2018. It feels like it was like... I mean, 2018 is... That's 7 years ago, which is crazy to think about. Clean coffee table, collect trash, take trash out. Okay. Okay, the house is not in good shape. Again, worth noting. Ranger98, hello, welcome. First time chatter, welcome. Welcome to the channel, welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing okay. Oh my god, Kara. There we go. Thank you. Sorry, it's not your fault, Kara. It's David Cage's fault because the camera angles and control scheme are, as always, not very intuitive. But again, you know, I can only complain so much. It's better than Heavy Rain. 7 years ago. I know. It's crazy thinking that this is 7 years old, this game. Took out trash. Yay. Looks like the house next door is for sale. Interesting. It feels like there's this visual contrast created of these super high-tech buses coming through like a very dilapidated neighborhood with like old-fashioned architecture, and then you can see in the skyline these like very high-tech skyscrapers. So there's definitely like a feeling of economic segregation in this environment, for sure. I'd be interested to learn more about Detroit as a city, so I might try to do some reading before the next stream so that we can talk more about that. The years really do keep coming. They don't stop coming. It's true. Report to Todd. I don't want to report to Todd. I want to do more things. Oh. Scan. Dishwasher is not working. Okay, I've just ordered the broken dishwasher component, I guess. Because I'm an android and therefore I can do that with my brain. Oh, hey Alice. Are you okay, dude? Like, what's going on there? Some weird, heavy breathing going on. Smash Mouth were right. Sure were. Time to wash some dishes. I wish it was this easy in real life. I mean, like, as it is in video games. To... Every fucking week I'm like... More dishes? Oh, classic. Fuck. Oh, it's the touchpad. Okay. Alright, David Cage, getting fancy. More dishes, more laundry, more cleaning. Scrub-a-dub-dub, scrub-a-dub-dub, scrub-a-dub-dub.
Kara!
Yes, Todd?
Bring me a cold beer!
Right away.
You know, I don't know what happened to his wife, but like, I mean, this is what a lot of men just want for a wife, so... Again, the android is a metaphor for racial, and also it should be said, I mean, and I've already kind of touched on this, of course, with like the stuff I was saying earlier about like domestic labor and how like a lot of this game so far seems to be specifically focusing on androids who work in like domestic work and domestic labor, caring, housework, etc., unpaid, and then fucking Connor, the cop. But yeah, I mean, this also brings the dimension into it of reading the android as a metaphor for what men want from women, which is basically a robot to do the dishes for them and take care of their daughter because they don't care about their daughter. So that's great, right? Okay, why is he smoking why is there like red smoke coming out of his face right now? Like, what's... Check the backyard? Okay, let's do that. Anything to delay talking to Todd, honestly. And the trash and the... Yeah, every week. Speaking of repetitive tasks, have you all seen that there's a co-op game coming out where you push Sisyphus's rock? No! That's so funny. That's hilarious. It's funny because, again, it's like, you know, there are times where, like, if I actually have time and I actually feel relaxed, that I can actually take pleasure from domestic labor. And again, domestic labor is, like, important. It's essential to life. We all have to do it. It's super important work. And sometimes I can even, like, have a relaxing time doing it. The only reason I hate it so much and it stresses me out so much is, once again, because in our late-stage capitalist existences, it's like having to do that and do all of that and work and pay bills and just all of it, you know? It's just too much. It's just too much. Pushing it with Sisyphus, that's a hilarious name. I love it. Okay, so what am I looking for here? Okay, laundry basket. I was just thinking, I need a laundry basket to collect this laundry. Well, there it is, even though it's probably covered in dirt because it was just lying face down in the grass. It's fine, I guess. Hi, Alice. Okay, so obviously what I'm saying is that I'm a sucker for taking care of a child. That's what I was implying earlier. Hey.
You like playing out here? You look bored. Would you like to play a game?
Rewash the laundry. Yeah, you know what? That's what I was thinking. That laundry is probably not looking happy, so... Is that, though? That doesn't look like a functional washer, so I'm assuming I have to go inside to get to the washer. Oh my god. I really hope that Pushing It with Sisyphus has Pump It Up by Endor in its soundtrack. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. Remember that bit in Heavy Rain where Ethan has to take care of his child for like a second and he's completely incompetent at it? Red ice, acetone, lithium, therium, to was not enough time.
You shouldn't mess around with my stuff. It makes me nervous.
I'm sorry, Todd.
You stay the fuck out of my business.
Gas,
You wanna piss me
las
off.
drogas.
You wanna piss me off?
No, Todd.
Indeed. Drugs, 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 drugs. David Madsen voice. Listen, I was just trying to do some laundry, and it's not my fault that you purchased me, a domestic laborer, and then you asked me to do your domestic labor, but you hid your drugs in the laundry. Okay, that's not my fault. Also, okay, so with regards to the global care chains discussion, something I find quite interesting about this is that this is like, this family clearly doesn't have a lot of money, and that's, you know, generally speaking, only families with money can afford, like, you know, like a cleaner or like a babysitter or a nanny, let alone like a live-in domestic servant or a live-in nanny or something, right? But it seems that in this, like, Android economy... Oh, touchpad. You should explain that earlier, David Cage. So I think he bought a used Android, potentially, and also, like, got the Android repaired, but it implies that there's, like, an affordability of androids, or certain androids, and that the androids are probably cheaper than getting human domestic labor, or, like, human carers, which means that human... And I guess this kind of speaks to the question that I raised earlier, like, what happens to the people who were doing these jobs before, who are generally racialized and migrant women? And my assumption is that they've been priced out of their jobs, which, you know, they're already accepting, like... Sorry, not to phrase it like that. They're already, like, on unlivable wages. And, like, abused in this horrible situation anyway. So, potentially... people have been priced out of their jobs because the androids are so much more affordable than, like, human labor, that, like, even poor families like this one can afford a live-in domestic servant and carer. So that's just quite interesting. Anyway, Century, the transport innovation that's shaking up California, connecting the dots. Politics in focus. Are American senators really corrupt? Yes. Spoiler alert. China earthquake kills 10,000 people. Okay. Connecting the dots, the transport innovation that's shaking up California. The new subtube completed its first journey today from Manhattan to downtown LA in under 2 hours, less than half the 5-hour flight time. The top speed of 1,800 miles per hour was made possible because the tube travels through a depressurized chamber, providing a near-frictionless environment for its magnetized motors. For commuters, this raises the tantalizing prospect of finishing a long shift in the Big Apple and putting your feet up on the Golden Coast. Interesting. I love when drug usage is written by someone whose most exotic endeavor is pouring some wine into Coke. You're so real for that read on David Cage. I think that's probably an accurate assessment of the situation. In one of these magazines, for maybe it was in Marcus's section, doesn't it say the unemployment rate is absolutely psychotic number, like 45% or something? Yeah, potentially. Potentially. California's property markets are reacting. Suburban prices have skyrocketed 64%. LA realtor Charlene Lowe says she knows where the new buyers are coming from. They're East Coast types, specifically New Yorkers. They see a chance to keep that NYC salary while enjoying an LA lifestyle, and they're scrambling over each other to take advantage. Gentrification. Real estate isn't the only thing shaking up. School places are rapidly filling and suburban retailers are racking up prices in anticipation of all those New York dollars flooding in. Longtime Californians are expected to be pushed out from the cities, which is why they've been protesting the new line. As one angry demonstrator put it, first Detroit takes our jobs, then New York takes our homes. When's it gonna end? Interesting. All sports. Android power. Should it be outlawed? Football frenzy. The latest transfer speculations. The snippet is the most American culture written by a European thing I've ever seen. I don't doubt it. Oh, this snippet. Yes. Yeah. Oh, he's an ice hockey dude. Okay.
What are you looking at? Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here!
I'll get back to work.
Activate vacuum cleaner. Where's the vacuum cleaner? It's over there. In the corner?
Out of the way, for fuck's sake!
I'm sorry, Todd. It won't happen again.
It's also just like very David Cage to be like, the only way that I could write a woman would be for that woman to be horrifically abused. But not actually give her any like particular character dimension. I mean, obviously it's nowhere near as bad as Madison in Heavy Rain, which is like some of the most sexist writing I've ever experienced ever. Cool.
Alice! You better stop that right now!
Leave her alone.
Why is she always pushing me? Always pushing.
Report to Todd. I'm trying.
I've made a good start down here. I'll head upstairs.
Do what you have to do, but stop bothering me.
That's why he's depressed and lashing out. It's not the drugs. He's just a Red Wings fan. So true. It's just ice hockey bros are like this, you know? He's gonna blame the drugs, but the elephant in the room is that it's who fucking likes ice hockey. Credit card application rejected. Invoice received from a couple of invoices to fulfill. Overdrawn account notice, blah blah blah. So, just in case you couldn't tell from all of the other obvious environmental storytelling going on here. They're poor. That's what's happening. Make bed, clean mess, ventilate room. God, I know it smells terrible in here. I just know it. Oh god. He has a guitar. Okay, another all sports magazine. Have androids killed baseball? Full feature. Android QB, CyberLife unveils Android quarterback. Oh my god, okay. Slam dunk, basketball star Gary Gibbons interview. American football has largely resisted the spread of Android players, with top-tier games still an exclusively human affair. But that may be about to change following CyberLife's recent unveiling of technical demo QB 1000, an Android quarterback capable of throwing from end zone to end zone and hitting a target 6 inches wide. The model is also programmed with over 1,500 plays, from classics such as bootlegs and handoffs to more specialized maneuvers, all of which can be adapted in real time. QB1000 was revealed at a recent CyberLife exhibition in Detroit, where the Android manufacturer showed a variety of prototypes designed to show the potential of bleeding-edge technology. But while CyberLife's latest innovation has some fans drooling, Roy Kenstone, founder of the anti-Android fan group, what a name, sees a sinister aspect. CyberLife know exactly what they are doing with this demonstration. They hope to distort our sport the same way they have all the others. Despite these reservations, some consider this simply a matter of time, with basketball and baseball already contemplating Android players. An LED sporting QB might be just around the corner. The quantum magnet that could scrub carbon from the air. Tech Addict, The Price of Life. Oh my god, it's my video essay. He saw an Android goalkeeper and said, that could work in my home. I know. I bet he has fucking, like, dashed hopes of being an ice hockey star, and then he goes to his bedroom and he plays, like, sad electric guitar music, to, like, fill the hole in his heart. As a non-sports enjoyer, does this not ruin the fun? Yeah, I would agree. Absolutely. Counterpoint, Shohei Ohtani signed a 10-year contract with the LA Dodgers for $700 million USD, so allegedly that's how this worked out. The price of life! I know. This is crazy. This is so crazy. I can't believe that David Cage put our video essay in the game. I don't really know what this has to do with Life is Strange, but we'll find out, I guess. How driverless vehicles make life and death decisions. Space tourism. Is Mars your next holiday destination? Oh god. When a driverless vehicle foresees an accident, the car's computer makes life and death decisions, for example, deciding which of two pedestrians to hit. But the exact process by which cars make these decisions is not very well understood. Martin Forlong of Crown Cars tries to clarify. In these situations, the car's imaging system gathers data to determine the pedestrian's age, gender, life expectancy, etc. in the blink of an eye. Okay. That seems like the car is doing eugenics. This data is parsed through the public record to determine marital status, employment record, life expectancy, and whether they have children. The car then assigns a value to each possible victim based on criteria like their contribution to society. We put a premium on lives that will save other lives, like doctors and nurses. The car is doing eugenics! Stop. All this may sound very reasonable. No, it doesn't! But Felix Gamble, head of Anti-Automation League, AAL, says the system has no right to make such judgments. Somebody with a criminal record is not necessarily less valuable to society than a doctor. That kind of information is irrelevant to the sanctity of human life. But Forlong dismisses such claims. We want our cars to make the best possible choices, and that means acting on the basis of all the information they can gather. The more, the better. That's insane. So... Gaggle of school children and android quarterback on the crosswalk. Which way, Western car? This is crazy. Oh my god, Todd loves Three Doors Down. Classic divorce dad music. You're so right. Did Three Doors Down do that one song that's like, I'm here without you, baby, but you're still on my lonely mind. I think about you, baby, and I dream about you all the time. I want to say that's Three Doors Down, but that's also kind of like what all of those bands sounded like, so I can't be sure. Sometimes I do get brain rot of that song, but I can never actually remember who wrote it. Hi, Layla. Okay, you're walking in front of the microphone again. It's a gun and some medication. Oh, please be careful on the keyboard, Layla. Please don't. Oh, you can sit. You could sit here, Layla. You want to sit here? Which is not on my keyboard or in front of my microphone. Good girl. Good girl. Who's a good little kitty? Who's your good little kitty? Okay, sorry. Distracted. I actually kind of can't see the screen, Layla. You're in front of the screen. Can you, like, could you loaf? Could you loaf? That would be nice. Be nice if you could loaf. The crazy thing is, I've seen people play this game and read that article and be like, yeah, that sounds reasonable. That's insane. That's insane. Miss Layla. Turn the game off, Layla. Do what's best for all of us. Yeah, you know what? Actually, if you climb all over the keyboard and fuck something up, then don't worry about it, Layla. Nobody can hold that against you. Okay, I already read that. Sorry. Put it down, Kara. Dad Rock does all sound the same, you're right.
And now to sports. First up, basketball. As the Gears prepare for the critical match with Denver tonight at the CyberLife Arena in Detroit, league negotiations are still ongoing over the possibility of allowing one Android player per squad. Debate rages as to whether the change would lead to more exciting matches or be the first step in making human players obsolete. CyberLife has announced its willingness to participate in the experiment by providing one specialized model to every team. Now, androids are already used to train players and provide tactical advice for coaches since 2035, but no android player has been permitted to compete so far.
Okay. This is so... there's always a little animation in the David Cage game, because I think in Heavy Rain there's also that one weird looping animation with that's like Chicken Run, but bad.
Another 225,000 jobs were lost from the U.S. economy in October, according to the Department of Labor, bringing the unemployment figure up to
How did I never notice that he has vinyls? How does he have vinyls? I don't know, maybe in whatever this year is, 2038? Maybe vinyls become cheaper? Who knows? Or maybe he's spent all of his money on vinyls and that's why he's poor.
President Warren spoke today at the opening of a new CyberLife plant near Milwaukee. At the event, the president again praised CyberLife's role in the exceptional performance of the U.S. economy. She further announced the Department of Defense will acquire 200,000 Android combat
Jesus
units
Christ.
as part of her increased military spending.
Okay, so androids in the military is a thing. Okay. The exceptional performance of the US economy is also, yeah, once again implying that, like, there's a bunch of cheap labor, an influx of cheap labor, which is leading to massive unemployment rates and huge amounts of poverty. Meanwhile, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So, capitalism, but somehow even worse than it is now, is what's happening. Sorry. I mean, of course it's even worse. White people are having a hard time. Oh my god, the president is a girl boss. I know. No wonder things are... Human history is a story of progress, am I right? I forgot that the US president in this game is definitely not Hillary Clinton. That's hilarious. I didn't remember anything about that. But... who knows what David Cage was going for with that.
Watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess 2018, so probably when it was in development and stuff, like the 2016 election and everything was around that time. How crazy to think about that. Who is that girl I see staring straight back at me? When will my reflection show? Anyway. Layla's looking at me like, what? Sorry, girl. You know I had to. Sorry, I love it when you're in a David Cage game and the animation stops and starts like that. Stop it. Alright. That was a jump scare. What, the Todd situation? Oh, okay, that was easy, huh? To Alice's room. Okay, Layla, I think that there might be QuickTime events happening sometime soon, so I'm gonna need you to not
I only need 2 minutes.
be
Is
in
that
my
okay,
line
Alice?
of sight of in between my line of sight of the screen and my face. Wow. Words. Aww. Nah, Layla's judging you because we're boycotting Disney. Oh, yeah, we are boycotting Disney, but, you know, you can still pirate and watch Mulan because, like, Mulan is a classic. Like, what am I gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, don't spend money on Disney, but you can pirate the classics and continue to enjoy them. It's just... you know, it is what it is. I've been thinking about rewatching Lilo and Stitch because I'm so angry about the rewatch situation, but I think I have Lilo and Stitch on DVD because it's been my favorite Disney movie, with Mulan being a close second, probably, since I was like very, very little. The Hillary jump scare Right, okay, that makes more sense. That makes a lot more sense.
I'm sure we used to be friends before I was reset. Maybe we can be friends again. Your father said you chose my name. Kara. It's nice. How did you choose it? You're very quiet. I hope I don't scare you. You should tell me about yourself. What you like to do, where you like to go, your favorite foods. That would really help me.
I didn't want to, like, go in and ask her about her mother who isn't here. You know what I mean? Why would they mess with perfection? Truly. Lilo and Stitch is, like, a perfect movie. It is a perfect movie. The other day I remembered that Lilo and Stitch is a perfect movie, and there are few other movies that I think could really top it, and I put it on my Letterboxd top 4, and I was... It should have been there earlier, it should have been there earlier, it should have been there earlier, but it's there now. Other than adding in the deleted scenes, taking the piss out of tourists. Yeah, it would be even better if they'd kept in some of those deleted scenes that make it even more explicitly, like, anti-colonial. But it's such a great movie. I'm a David Cage. I write as a game where you feel the emotion. Do you not feel the emotion? That's not French. I don't know what that accent was. I'm sorry. I'm losing my marbles here. Oh shit, okay. So that's a drawing of herself with a head injury. And her dad frowning. And her dad hitting Kara. And Kara on the floor, bleeding. This is, I'm sorry, this is one of my favorite stupid, like, horror movie tropes, is when the troubled child has a series of, like, troubled drawings of, like, the monster or, like, the traumatic thing that happened to David Cage. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do with you, David Cage? What are we gonna do with you, David Cage? Italian Elon Musk, what are you doing? I'm so sorry. I don't know why it started going Italian. I forgot what French people sounded like, and I was momentarily happy. Oh, Layla. Listen, girl, you're in front of the screen. I need you to... You can sit. You can loaf somewhere else. Okay, she's going. I am David Cage. I do the on the nose children's drawings. Yes, this is Italian David Cage. That's where we are now. The troubled, voiceless child. Yeah. Yeah. Written and directed by David Cage. What more is there to say? Sorry, I'm trying to get back into a French zone. I don't know what happened to the French voice. I am a David Cage. What's happening? That's not French. I'm not in control of my own body. Oh my god, she's reading. Her name is Alice, and she's reading Alice in Wonderland. Whoa. Who would have thunk? Okay, ask Todd for new instructions. Sure. I'm really trying to get back into the French zone, and I don't know how to do it. It's okay, we're gonna come back to it later. Next time I try to do a David Cage impression, I promise I'll try harder next time. The problem is when you get stuck on Italian, it's hard to get out. You're so right.
Play. I know what you're thinking. You think your dad's a lowlife?
Yes.
Huh?
Correct.
Fucking loser. Can't get a job, take care of his family.
Well, not that part.
Don't you think I tried to make things work? But whatever I do, when someone comes along, they just fuck it all up!
Okay, well, that's not her fault, is it?
I know what you think of me. You hate me. You hate me, don't you?
Well, she does hate you, but that's because you abuse her.
You hate me! God. What am I doing? I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know I love you, don't you? You know I love you.
Okay, I mean, obviously that was, like, really badly written, like, very cringe, but, always worth pointing out again that that's a classic abuse tactic, is to hurt you and then be very violent, very aggressive, like have a very violent, aggressive mode, and then immediately go into, like, a very loving, caring mode that makes, like, the recipient of the abuse feel like guilty or feel like you're not a bad person or like blah blah blah. Always worth pointing that out again. Gotta add in how you say into every sentence for French. You're right. Baguette. Welcome home. I am David Cage. It's slipping Italian again. Anyway. Damn, emotional whiplash over here. Yeah, it's just... This is a David Cage game. I don't know if you've ever played or seen any of his other games before, Charlotte, but this is pretty much what the experience is like. The writing is just like this. Horror parody movies are becoming more commonplace, so I'd love to see an extended bit where there is this silent, troubled child with the troubling drawings, but it turns out there's nothing supernatural going on, and they just saw the substance on TV or something. That would be really funny. Oh no, you've gotten more Italian. Stop it. I can't stop it. I went Italian and now I can't go back. I'm trying so hard, but I got into Italian and now I'm stuck on Italian. Okay, wait. Sorry, I'm trying to make it more like an how do you how you say? Is that how you say? I can't. So this is a bad accent stream. Public opinion skeptical, Alice trusted. A new home. Oh. Okay, I saw a gun and I discovered a way down, so that's gonna be useful for later.